It's almost too easy for Yvette Cooper not to hit a bullseye when the target she's aiming for is Suella Braverman. Here recently, she takes Braverman down on her poor performance, responding to claims of sexual violence against women perpetrated by police officers.
Mr. Speaker, after the murder of Sarah Everard by a serving officer, Labour called for change. After the horrific murders of Bieber Henry and Nicole Smallman, Labour called for leadership. After the shameful case of Child Q, Labour called for reform. After the shocking Charing Cross station report, Labour demanded action. After the Stephen Port inquiry, Labour called for reform. And after the cases right across the country of abuse or of misogyny, Labour has demanded change. Conservative ministers promised action would be taken, but they have failed to do so. Labour will change the law. Labour will overhaul the vettings, misconduct and standards system because it is time for change. And we are letting down police officers across the country who do excellent work and who are being let down by these failures in the system. And most of all, women are being let down. It's too late for all the warm words in the Home Secretary's statement. What is she actually going to do to make sure that standards are raised?
But that's just a drop in the ocean. Watch as Yvette takes Suella down again and again and again. Sometimes for the fact that Braverman is either too scared or lazy to even turn up.
Mr. Speaker, I notice there's no Home Secretary this morning, unless the member for Bassett Law has been appointed Home Secretary in the last few hours, which, to be honest, nothing would surprise us at the moment, because this is total chaos. We've got the third Home Secretary in 7 weeks. The Cabinet was only appointed 6 weeks ago. The Home Secretary has been sacked, the Chancellor sacked, the Chief Whip sacked and then unsacked, and the unedifying scenes of Conservative MPs last night fighting like rats in a sack. This is a disgrace. I have to say, why is the Home Secretary not here? This is supposed to be her top priority. We've had two UQs, a debate and this statement in the last few weeks on this chaos, and she hasn't done any of them. You have to ask, what is she for? Can I ask you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, to help us get urgent answers to these questions? The Home Secretary has access to the most sensitive information of all relating to our national security. We cannot have someone careless and slapdash in that job. And how on earth does it meet standards of integrity, professionalism, to reappoint someone who's just broken the ministerial code, just breached all standards of professional behaviour in a great office of state? It just looks as if the new Prime Minister has put party before country, and our national security and public safety are too important for this. On this Conservative government's watch, can she confirm that the Nationalities Borders Bill and changes to immigration rules have in fact added further bureaucracy and delays, leading to tens of thousands more people waiting in asylum accommodation and more than £100 million extra on asylum accommodation bills because their policies are pushing up the use of hotels and the increase in delays? There's also been a total failure to prevent a huge proliferation of gangs in the Channel. Why has the Home Secretary refused our calls for a major new National Crime Agency unit with hundreds of additional specialist officers to work with Europol and others to crack down on the gangs, as well as the urgent work needed with France to get a proper agreement in place? And can she also confirm on the Rwanda plan that she has spent an extra £20 million on top of the £120 million already spent on a policy that she has herself described as failing and that her officials have described as unenforceable and with a high risk of fraud? And isn't it now time to drop this unethical and unworkable scheme and put the money into tackling the backlogs and tackling the criminal gangs? So I have questions for the Home Secretary that the government needs to answer. The Home Secretary accepted she sent an official document via her personal email to someone who was not authorised to see it. Is this the only time she has done this? Or has she shared other documents or other sensitive information? The Home Secretary is responsible for national security. So, has the Home Office, Cabinet Office or Security Service now undertaken an investigation into her security breaches to see how many others there have been? And can I urge him to make sure that happens urgently? What security clearance has the Home Secretary been given? Does she still have access to the most sensitive documents and information? And did the Cabinet Secretary warn against her reappointment? She has been Home Attorney General. She's been a minister on and off for 4 years, so she knows the rules about government documents, yet she sent one to her own private email to someone outside the government and also copied it by accident to someone else entirely. How is anyone supposed to believe she is such a novice that she didn't know exactly what she was doing? And if she really is that much of a novice, why on earth are the rest of us supposed to trust her with our national security?
That's why it was a central purpose of the Police Crime Sentencing Courts Bill, now Act, to properly empower the police in face of the protest, and yet members opposite voted against it. Had opposition members of the other place not blocked these measures when they were in the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Bill, the police would have had many of the powers contained in this bill, and the British people would not have been put through this grief today. So yes, I'm afraid, Madam Deputy Speaker, it's the Labour Party, it's the Lib Dems, it's the coalition of chaos, it's the Guardian reading, tofu-eating, wokerati, dare I say, the anti-growth coalition that we have to thank for the disruption that we are seeing on our roads today. Madam Deputy Speaker, I urge opposition MPs and members of the other place to take this second chance, do the right thing, respect the rights of the law-abiding majority and support this bill.
Deputy Speaker, it's like astonishing. The Home Secretary actually talked about a coalition of chaos. We can see it in front of us as we speak. Look, I understand the Minister, they do have concerns. The government does have concerns. When they face issues where you've got a selfish minority wreaking havoc, you've got someone who's resisting all attempts by the powers that be to remove them, causing serious disruption, disorder, chaos, with serious consequences for the public, for businesses, for politics and for financial markets. But they've glued themselves under the desk. With honourable members opposite, we wish them luck with their attempts to extricate another failing Tory Prime Minister from number 10, but I suggest it isn't a reason to change the law for everyone else.
Click here to listen to an amazing speech by Labour MP Clive Lewis.